So I've been listening to Taylor Swift's Fearless. Not the normal Fearless, mind you. The one that came out, God, what would that have been? 2008 when that originally came out? Not that. Let's see. I'm going to pull up the OG. The original album, yeah, it came out in 2008 is when it originally came out. I've been listening to the dope version, which is Taylor's version of Fearless. And I did this because I kind of low-key, it ain't even low-key, I like Taylor Swift, man. I ain't afraid to say it. Sometime last year, I reviewed both her Folklore and Evermore albums on that episode where I covered like Miley's album and Lady Gaga's album and also Ariana Grande's album. I did all those pop albums and stuff like that, including Taylor's folk albums. But I've been listening to the Fearless Taylor version because this was the first in a series of 6 re-recorded albums Swift has planned to release following the dispute regarding ownership of the masters to her first 6 studio albums. So I'm going to get into all that. But first, if you've been with me a long time, you know, back in 2016, a little ditty came out. That went by the name of Lemonade. And on this Lemonade album by one Beyonce Knowles, Beyonce pretty much said Jay-Z cheated on me. the whole album, like the whole visual album, in fact. Even though Jay was still present in that very last song, and even though they stayed together, she made it very clear that Jay-Z cheated on her. Well, me, being Jay-Z superfan number 1, said, hold up, I don't believe you, Beyonce. So for over a year, anytime I would mention that album, I was constantly talking about, trying to move my mic here, trying to make sure I'm good and centered. I would constantly say she was lying. That she made it up to do the album tour. And then 444 came out, the album and the song. And then Jay copped to Kill Jay-Z was the very first song, and he admitted that he pushed Solange in the elevator. He kept provoking Solange in the elevator. And so Jay pretty much spilled the beans that, yeah, he threw everything away, almost, and cheated on Beyonce. So I had to very publicly, on this very podcast, walk back my Beyonce comments that she was a liar. And then I had to also pledge allegiance to the Beehive, whatever. Which I've done since. Never another ill word about Beyonce since, okay? Episode 102 of this very podcast, I decided it was a good time to go in on Taylor Swift. Now, I'm just going to read the description from that episode. That episode was released June 19, 2019, so almost 3 years ago. Episode was called Thrones Not Owned. It says, I still haven't hit that Sunday release date since I vowed to go bi-weekly on episode 100, but never mind all that. In the 102nd episode of the world's greatest podcast, I'm live from the road again. During my trek back to Morgantown from the Pittsburgh airport, I go over how my Father's Day was and then get to a topic I've been dying to unleash: the rise and plateauing of the career of one Taylor Allison Swift. Oh yeah, I see you, Allison. Mad passive aggressive. So, I was listening to Fearless this morning, Taylor's version. And she has the singles, you know, White Horse and 15. And Today Was a Fairy Tale and a little ditty called You Belong With Me. Big monster hits. I think she might have won a Video of the Year award for one of those at the 2009 VMAs, maybe. And then something happened. I don't know if you heard about it, but I digress. So I'm listening to the album, and I find myself enjoying the album cuts more than I'm actually enjoying the singles. Because honestly, and Love Story's on here too. So just looking at the track listing, okay? This is only writing. There's some co-writing on here. But there is not a song other than a deluxe edition remix of Love Story that Taylor's pen wasn't on. And bro, some of these songs go. And yeah, I'm going to tell you straight up, all right? If you're not in the country, because this is still a country pop album, because she didn't really go pop until the Red album, okay? But I'm just going to run down the list of some of the ones that I've really liked on the album. So, wait, are you not going to show me that I like these songs? Come on, Spotify, do better. All right, here we go. So, White Horse, You Belong With Me, obviously. Love Story's fine. 15's fine. Fearless is fine. There's this joint called You're Not Sorry on here. Woo! Like, I don't know how old Taylor was in 2008 when she made this. I'm going to say, let's see, Taylor Swift, she's born in 89, so 2008. So she was 18 when this came out, because she didn't turn 20 until, no, she's 19, because she didn't turn 20. No, she was 18 because she didn't turn 19 until she didn't turn 19 until December of 2008. So this album came out and she was 19 years old, bro. And the whole concept behind the Taylor's version thing. Now, I want to send a shout out to my girl JoJo. Yes, that JoJo of Get Out fame. She was in a bad record deal with Blackground Records. You may have known them from being Aaliyah's photo or record company for years prior to her death. And then they still had the rights of her music like in a stranglehold. And I did an episode about that. How none of her music was available digitally. None of her music was available for streaming until the late summer, late fall last year. They finally put out like the rest of her albums that had never hit streaming. So JoJo was stuck in a bad deal. And the label, and this is my speculation, I've never looked into it, but I imagine after Aaliyah passed in 2001, I kind of feel like the label just kind of stagnated. I don't know anything about Blackground Records or who ran it. I think it was a subsidiary of Atlantic. How can I say subsidiary but not digitally? See, and then I said it right. And the record company just, they just kind of disappeared. Other than JoJo, because JoJo came out a few years later. Well, after JoJo's second album, she got stuck in this deal, couldn't get out of it. And so then there's videos that's on her YouTube channel about her own personal struggles she was going through and stuff. But she literally was fighting for her life to get off this label and try to figure out to continue her music career, because she couldn't do anything because she was stuck in this deal. So eventually she got out. Shout out to the Sonic Bubble. If anybody wants to go check it out, I'm kidding. I was going to tell you that Dakota Kai is live on Twitch. But by the time you hear this, she may not be, but who knows? You might want to go watch the VOD. That's up to you. So she got out of a record deal, and she's working on, like, she did that Drake cover of Marvin's Room and stuff that was real popular. Starts working on new music. And then essentially she finds out that all the money from her first two albums is completely, she can't have any of it. It all belongs, like, there's no royalties, there's nothing. Like, and this is her blood, sweat, and tears. Like I said, she got janked. Now, this is a story that's happened to thousands upon thousands upon thousands of recording artists over the years, okay? What JoJo did was say, okay, I'm going to put up my own money and re-record both of those albums so I can put them on streaming. And that's what she did. So there are versions of JoJo's first albums out there that are like made like more, the release date's newer. So those are the versions you want to stream if you want to truly support JoJo, because since she recorded it and it was under different publishing, even though it's the exact same songs, I don't know exactly how it works, but when you play her version, she gets an actual piece of the pie from those songs. unlike her original label. Cut to Taylor, okay? Now, we know that Taylor's relationship with streaming services has been complicated, okay? And she's been off Spotify, she's been back on Spotify, she's been on Apple, and now it seems like she's cool with all the streaming companies, even though she's never felt like it's fair how much an artist gets paid for a stream. And one thing I agree with when it comes to Joe Budden, he asked a question a few years back, what is a stream worth? Nobody really still knows, truly, okay? So, Taylor, her original record label, Big Machine, the publishing, I'm going to paraphrase, I'm not going to look it up, but I know the story. So, what has happened is Taylor's record company was sold and all the publishing for the first 6 albums she released. Eventually, they ended up in the hands of Scooter Braun, Justin Bieber's manager, also record executive, briefly Kanye's manager as well. I don't think that he manages them anymore. Okay. Ever since Selena Gomez was dating Justin Bieber, Taylor ain't F with Justin. Never. Didn't like Justin, didn't like Scooter, none of it. So when Taylor found out that Scooter Braun owned her master copies and was going to profit off of owning her masters for the first 6 albums, Taylor said, cool. Let me go ahead and buy my masters then. I'm Taylor Swift. Name a dollar amount. It doesn't matter. I want to buy my masters. Okay? Rule number 1 to anybody out there who wants to make music. It's important to own your masters and your publishing. So important. Do not, if you can avoid it, give those things up. Don't give up your ownership, okay? But she's Taylor Swift, right? So she's like, yeah, Taylor's like, I'll just buy my masters. So she goes to buy her masters. They won't sell her masters. So 6 albums of blood, sweat, and tears, including her debut, I believe, which would be Taylor Swift, all the way through, hold on, I got it right here, Podcasting 101. Taylor Swift Masters Controversy, shout out to Wikipedia, man. So, let's see, I want to see what albums it covers. Yeah, it was Big Machine Records, they signed her at 15. So, yeah, so I'm listening to Fearless now. Red came out in November, Taylor's version. So, she's also going to do 1989, which would be, so I guess Speak Now would be in there, Taylor Swift, and then there would be, let me just look up the discography. Taylor Swift discography. Okay, now let's get to the bottom of it. So, studio albums. So, Taylor Swift, Fearless was her second album. Speak Now, Red, 1989, and Reputation was all under Big Machine. When she released Lover, which kind of brings us full circle to what I was saying earlier about episode 102, it came out on Republic. So, she signed a new record deal. Her last 3 albums will come out on Republic. Now, so, they tell Taylor, we're not selling you your masters. Taylor's pissed, obviously, okay? And I act like I know Taylor, but I don't. But I mean, who wouldn't be? You're one of the biggest artists in the world. You've made all this money. You've done so much to build your star all these years. And you have FU money. This episode's sponsored by water, by the way. Working on my other gallon and a half today. Actually, I just need a half of that to get to a whole gallon today. And they tell you no. And then it just so happens that Scooter Braun, who you don't F with, has your masters. So Taylor is re-recording those first 6 albums. Like I said, Fearless came out first. Red came out last November. I think 1989 is next. I think. Don't quote me. But yeah, she dropped Fearless, and that's what I've been listening to. And I've just been so impressed. And kudos to Taylor for doing that, because every time you stream a Taylor's version, the money goes to Taylor, not Scooter Braun, and not Big Machine Records, if they even still exist. which is important. Now, not every artist is afforded the opportunity to re-record their albums because this is hella expensive. Taylor has FU money. Most artists do not. But yeah, like I was saying, You're Not Sorry, fire. Change, fire. Untouchable, fire. Forever and Always, fire. You All Over Me, which I think is from a vault, which means it's newer, fire. Taylor's pen is pretty sick. And I said this when I reviewed Folklore and Evermore. The girl can write a song. The girl can write a song, believe it or not. And that brings me to my part of the show where I'm going to apologize. Because on episode 102, I felt like I listened. 1989 is my first Taylor album. I love the album. I was like, I had converted to the Church of Taylor. I'm like, all right, I'm in. Like, I like Taylor. Cool. Reputation came out. Of course, the whole controversy with Kanye had happened, with Famous, and then Kim releasing the tapes of her saying it was fine. My dumb ass, first cuss word, is on the record and talking about how Taylor said it was okay to Kanye, and then she's mad all of a sudden. She don't get to do that, Mr. High Horse. How I have grown in 3 years. My. Bruh, like, who cares? It's not, and I want to walk that back first and foremost, because it's one thing to say at one time, you know what, I'm cool with it. Yeah, go ahead. No problem. But if you at any point, especially when it comes to the way you're portrayed in something, or what people are saying about you, or even if it comes to you saying you do something and you don't feel comfortable, whether that be a favor all the way to the opposite side of the spectrum where it comes to consent, like sexual consent, even if you was down 10 minutes before and you get 10 minutes in and you're like, no, that's it. And I'm sitting there 3 years ago talking about how dumb Taylor was that she gave Kanye consent and then tried to take the consent back. That ain't how consent works, okay? If you give consent, cool. At any time if consent is taken away, then consent should be respected. So first off, I'm sorry for that, Taylor. Also, F Kanye and whatever Kim. Yeah. Sorry, Melisette. I know that's your dude. But he trash. He big trash. Moving my mic with my foot. Dang. So I apologize for that. But then I also said, because I didn't like Reputation, mostly I didn't like Look What You Made Me Do, because I felt like it was a direct response to Kim and Kanye that she didn't have to do, that Taylor didn't have to do. I said I didn't like Reputation. I've never listened to all Reputation. I said that on that pod. I still haven't. But I was like, I don't like Reputation. And then I think I did an addendum on the end of that episode because I said I hadn't listened to Lover yet. I don't even know if Lover was out yet. I had started listening to it. By the time that episode was over, I listened to the first 5 or so songs. And other than You Need to Calm Down, I was just kind of like, yeah, she's losing her touch, blah, blah, blah. I was convinced that Ariana Grande was a bigger pop star at the time than Taylor Swift. Again, this is 2019, okay? And Ariana was coming off 7 Rings, and coming off of Thank You Next, or 7 Rings. Was 7 Rings the album, or Sweetener? Sweetener was the album, right? I'm not looking it up. She had the album before Thank You Next, but then Thank You Next dropped, and it was huge, and she's everywhere, and then Taylor is seemingly suddenly struggling in the pop verse because she's not real enough, so to speak, in my eyes. So I criticized the living bejeebus out of her and said her career plateaued and she would never be the same, and Ariana Grande was better than her, and Miley was better than her, and all this stuff. Look, I still respect Miley. I love all the work she's done since I spoke about her 3 years ago. I still like Ariana. I enjoy Positions. I enjoy Plastic Hearts. But Miley and Ariana ain't got a Folklore or Evermore, yo. And that's the difference. Because as dope of an artist and as genre bending as Miley is, Miley's doing a rock thing right now. And who knows what she's going to transform into next. Like, Miley can do that. But Miley doesn't have that critically acclaimed album, okay? Now, Ariana got some serious albums, like Sweetener and Thank You Next. They're both very good albums, but I don't know if anybody would call them a classic, okay? Taylor, in the middle of a pandemic, pulled her hair up, started wearing it messier, and said, well, I'm kind of bored with pop. Now I want to do what's on trend. I'm going to go make some folk music. And she made phenomenal folk music. And then after she dropped 2 albums, were they both in 2020? They may have been both in 2020. Then she dropped 2 dope albums. Then she turned around and was like, I'm not going to be my masters. I'm going to re-record all these old albums. And then literally, I've never listened to the original versions, but maybe these are sweetened up by the fact that we now have, so let's see, she was 19, she was 18 when Fearless came out. 10 years makes her 28 in 2018. You add 4. So she's going to turn 32 this year. I don't know if it's 30-something Taylor with all her years of knowledge and wealth to pull it from when it comes to doing vocals, singing the vocals. But these lyrics just stand out so much to me. And as a songwriter, I can appreciate how simple yet effective every verse and every hook is throughout this whole album. And it's like a masterclass, yo. And she wrote these when she was, and I don't know about no ghostwriters, nothing like that. No ghostwriters, I don't care. The credits say Taylor, okay? They say Taylor Swift. So she was writing at a high level then at 18, bro. She got signed when she was 15. Her second album. And now this is letting me see the whole Kanye thing even more controversial, even more effed up, even more sideways from a different point of POV, because Ye literally went up there and was yelling at an 18-year-old girl that Beyonce had the best video of all time because he had too much Hennessy. Ye trash. Ye trash. Stop supporting this man. Stop being a part of his cult. Dang. Y'all listen to Donda. I mean, I listen to Donda, but I ain't listening to no Donda 2. No, thank you. Damn, Ye. God, you trash. But I say all that to say this. I sincerely apologize to Taylor because, one, wasn't writing any songs at that caliber at 18. Hell, I didn't even know how to rhyme on beats. So there's that. Songs that would go on to be big on the country charts and then the pop charts, and all while trying Your Stars Rising and all around the world, and then you're getting Hollywood roles and trying to act in those Valentine's Day was the movie she was in, I think, and like, for Taylor to be as well adjusted, and y'all can talk all the mess y'all want about her dating everybody and then writing a song about somebody, so what? I do the same thing. Like, obviously I'm not dating anyone other than my wife, but I go through something and then I put it in a song. I hated my job at the shoe department and I made a song called This Place for the Minds Mixtape Volume 4. I write about my lived experiences and my raps. And Taylor is writing about, and she didn't necessarily know about all these love topics and stuff like that, but her pen game is strong enough to be able to put herself in those shoes and present that music to the world. And she did this at 18. So now she's in her 30s and this is light work to her. So I say all that to say this: go, if you're into Taylor, I'm not forcing you, but go stream yourself some Taylor Swift. Make sure you're playing Taylor's version if you're listening to the older stuff. Red's out, and then Fearless is out, and she's working on 1989, I think. Don't quote me. And make sure that money goes to Taylor and not Scooter Braun. And also, who gives a F about who the biggest pop star is and who has the lead and all this other stuff? I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago, because that stuff mattered to me then. It mattered to me enough that I talked about on the pod while driving home from Pittsburgh. But now it don't matter. Like, Doja's out there, and then Cardi's getting in the pop conversation. Drake's in the pop conversation. Ariana's going to drop something, but it don't matter, man. It's either dope or it's not. And then you either listen to it, enjoy it, or you pass on it and you move on. That's it.